Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to be walking you through exactly what you need to do and a step-by-step process if you are skinny fat, where you have body fat to lose but you also want to build muscle mass. Now, my name is Harry Knights. I'm the founder of Lean for Life Coaching, where we specialize in getting busy men and women into the shape of their life without the restrictive diets and the hours of cardio. Now, if you look at the photos here, I started in this exact position. I was skinny fat, I had very minimal muscle mass, I couldn't fill out my football shirts, I was wearing oversized clothes to try and hide my skinny arms, but at the same time hide sort of the belly fat that I had. I had a lot of fat around my sort of face, and I just wasn't happy and wasn't confident. And that's when I found the gym. That's when I started learning about nutrition, and eventually I went through my own transformation. I managed to build, a decent level of knowledge, and I took my qualifications and got my nutrition certification, and I now help hundreds and hundreds of people every single day inside Lean for Life Coaching lose body fat, build muscle, and get in the shape of their life. So when it comes to getting out of that skinny fat phase, I believe I know what I'm talking about, because I've been in this exact position myself. And there are 4 fundamental sort of key steps to go through when you're looking to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time, because that's what skinny fat is. That's when you need to go through an effective body recomposition of losing fat and building muscle simultaneously. So the first thing that you need to do to go through this entire process is work out your calories. So calories are key when it comes to this. Now, what's different here is that you have to understand when you're skinny fat, have you got too much body fat and a lot of body fat to lose, or are you more on like the skinny phase, the skinny side of things, where you have maybe a little bit of body fat to lose? Because what it comes down to is we need to be at around about maintenance calories. We need to be eating around this number. Now, if we eat more than our maintenance, we're in what we call a calorie surplus. And if we eat less than our maintenance, we're in what we call a calorie deficit. Now, we need to figure out where we need to be. Now, to figure out our maintenance calories, it's very simple. It's your body weight in pounds multiplied by 15. That's going to give you your maintenance calories, which is this figure here, where we need to figure out this number. So once we've figured out our maintenance calories in an example world, so for example, so if we are a 180 pound individual, we multiply our body weight by 15, that's going to give us 2,700 calories. So if we're 180 pounds in this example, we multiply it by 15, that's going to give you your maintenance calorie amount of 2,700 calories. So if we look at that on that sort of sliding scale of where we need to be, if we say 2,700 is maintenance, okay? If you have more body fat to lose, what I would look at doing is just coming down a few calories, plus or minus in situation 200 calories. So I'd say minus 200 to get yourself around about 2,500 to be in that slight calorie deficit. That's if you have more body fat to lose. If you have less body fat to lose, you maybe, you're on the side of things where you need to build a bit more muscle, where you have to understand where you're at when it comes to skinny fat. Have you got like more body fat to lose, or have you got more muscle to build? Now, if you're on that side of things where, look, you have a little bit of body fat to lose, but you want to build more muscle and that's the focus, then you want to be eating around 2,900 calories. So you plus or minus your 200. Okay, so if your maintenance is that middle number, subtract 200 to get you to around that 2,500 calorie deficit mark, then you add 200 calories to get you into that slight calorie surplus. But ballpark figure, we'd be safe being around here. So you want to be eating around maintenance calories. So when you're skinny fat and you're looking to set up your calories to lose body fat and build muscle, aim for around maintenance, but understand where you're at on this sort of scale. Have you got more body fat to lose? Have you got more muscle to build? And then use this sort of framework to decide where your calorie figure for the day needs to be. Once we've worked out our calories, the next important sort of number to work out here is going to be our protein intake. So we have to know how much protein we need to be eating, because protein is important when it comes to building muscle, but it's also important when it comes to losing body fat. Because if we just eat in a deficit, we're going to lose weight. But we don't want to be skinny. So we need to make sure we're eating enough protein. Now, again, we can use a sort of a scale for this to figure out the number, but general rule of thumb is that you want to be eating around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So in that example from earlier, when we were 180 pounds, we want to be eating around 180 grams of protein. But again, there is this sort of sliding scale, depending on how much body fat you have and how much you have to lose, but also how much more muscle mass you want to build. So if we look at the fact that some individuals in this situation might have a lot more body fat to lose, you have a lot more mass, a lot more weight, and a lot more body fat to lose. In that situation, rather than eating 1 gram of protein per pound, you actually want to be eating around 0.8 grams of protein per pound, because you have a lot more weight to lose, a lot more body fat to lose. You don't want to be, stacking it out and eating a ton of protein here. If your goal, like the key goal for you, if you're skinny fat with more body fat to lose, you want to be eating around 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. If you're on the other side of things, where you actually have a decent amount of muscle mass there, okay, and you might just want to maybe build a bit more muscle and lose a little bit of body fat, then you can go at around 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, because you have that more muscle mass to actually maintain and hold on. So you want to be eating slightly more protein. But again, ballpark figure, around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. But use this sliding scale to sort of determine where you are at and how much protein you need to be eating. Then, once we've worked out our protein intake, so 180 pounds, we'll call it 180 grams of protein, we then want to actually look at our training, because training is now going to be really key. Now my pen is dying, but we'll hang in there. So training. Now, what are the basics and the fundamentals when it comes to training if you're skinny fat? Now, the first things first is we want to be looking at our actual resistance training. We do not want to be doing hours of cardio when you are skinny fat, because again, we don't want to just end up skinny. We actually want to build lean muscle here. So your main form of training needs to be resistance training. Now, resistance training is key to build muscle, but what actually comes into resistance training? I'm going to grab a new pen because this one is not too good. So what actually comes into resistance training? So we want to be focusing on things like training with intensity. So you have to be training hard. You can't just be going through the motions. You have to be training with serious intent and willingness to push and progress and train really hard. But you also want to be training with accuracy, because if you're not training with accuracy and form, you're not going to see progress either. So you want to push hard and train super hard with your resistance training and your weights, your hypertrophy training, but you also want to train with accuracy. That's really, really important when it comes to your training. But what is also important is volume. So you want to be aiming for around 10 to 20 sets per muscle group each week. So your chest, you want to be hitting 10 to 20 sets, your legs, 10 to 20 sets, your arms, your shoulders, every body part, you want to be trying to cover 10 to 20 sets per week. That is going to be the key sort of number you want to be looking for. If you're training 3, 4, or 5 days a week, I wouldn't train more than that, and I wouldn't train less than 3 ideally. 3, 4, 5 days, cover off 10 to 20 sets per week across each muscle group. And then what is so key when it comes to training is that you have to make sure that you apply progressive overload. If you aren't applying progressive overload, you will not build muscle. And what we mean by progressive overload, and the most simple form of applying progressive overload, is to actually increase your reps or your weight. So the weight that you are lifting, excuse the handwriting by the way, it's not my strongest point, but you have to increase your reps or your weights on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I make sure that all of our clients at Lean for Life, they're tracking their numbers. You have to know what you're lifting, and we have our own app to do this, but you have to track your data and have to track your numbers. So if you, for example, one week you lifted 50 kg for 8 reps, a simple form of progressive overload would be to go and lift 50 kg for 9 reps the following week. You sort of work this up until you get to sort of 10 or 11 or 12 reps, around that sort of ballpark figure, and then what you would do the following session is look to increase weight and then go back down to about 8 reps. That's a simple form of progressive overload in terms of how we're looking to increase weight or increase reps. Obviously there are other ways to increase progressive overload and make the actual exercise more difficult. You're increasing your time under tension, slowing things down, your tempo, etc. But that's the most simple way to make sure every week you're getting stronger, every week we're looking to build more muscle. And then the final step when it comes to actually getting out of that skinny fat phase that you're in is your cardio. Now, if you follow me on Instagram or on YouTube, you'll probably know that I'm not a huge fan of cardio, and I don't think you need to do it when you're looking to lose body fat specifically. But what I would recommend is using it as a tool. So if you're on this phase where you're looking to lose body fat, you're going to reach fat loss plateaus where you're no longer losing body fat, and you would need to probably increase your calorie deficit. Now, rather than reducing food, you could look at adding in some less cardio or some daily steps. Now, I would recommend that as a form of expenditure. I wouldn't be looking to do, hours of sprints, long distance runs. This is quite easy to stick to. It's low intensity, so it's not demanding on the body, and it's very easy for you to go out and get an additional 2,000-3,000 steps in. I'm not someone who's going to say, go and get me 10 to 12,000 steps every single day. If you're someone who's sedentary and sat down in the office all day, you might only have 5,000 as your average step count. So even bumping that up to 7,000 is going to make a difference. So increase your steps by 2,000 to 3,000, and list cardio can be things like steady state cardio or incline treadmill walking, swimming, spin bikes, something very low and not very demanding on the body. So not high intensity output, some low intensity work. So when you add all of these sort of frameworks together, you're going to find it a lot easier to go and get out of that skinny fat phase. So the first thing was working out your calories. So you work out your calories that you need to be eating, and we need to start figuring out a roundabout maintenance calories when you're skinny fat. Number 2 is your protein intake, around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but again, sliding scale, 0.8 grams to 1.2, anywhere around that scale. Number 3 is your resistance training, so your actual training, your strength training, your hypertrophy training, rather than doing hours of cardio. And then the 4th bonus tool is going to be your list cardio, and you add that in when necessary, when you reach that sort of fat loss plateau. If you nail these, you're going to be in a really good position to get out of that skinny fat phase, to build more muscle, to lose body fat, start transforming your physique and getting that aesthetic physique that you want. Hopefully this was useful. Hopefully I haven't waffled on too long there. I'm trying to get more informative, longer form content out on YouTube at the moment, because I know Instagram is very much short, snappy, and you can't get too much over, but whereas YouTube, you can try and go through things in a bit more detail. But any questions, leave them in the comments below, and hopefully you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next YouTube video.